And it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe on the way in the door, my people. I hope you all are having a truly fantastic day today, my people. So, as you all know, Steph Curry recently hit a milestone of 4,000 three-pointers, and the discussions have begun about is Steph Curry the greatest shooter of all time, about is Steph Curry the greatest point guard of all time. And I just listened to a segment with Rob Parker and his co-host debating this very thing. And I think Rob Parker brought up a very good point. And that is, can someone truly be labeled the greatest shooter of all time if they are not clutch? So without further ado, let's check out this clip.
Steph Curry, still shooting threes, still making threes. I don't know if they matter, but he's still making them. Rob G, he just hit another milestone, didn't he?
That's right. The hits keep coming for Wardell Stephen Curry. Got it backwards. 4,000 career three-pointers made in the NBA. That, of course, is the highest mark in NBA history because he's the only person who's ever hit 4,000. Just a couple more numbers for you, Rob. I know you're a numbers guy. Steph Curry, of course, all-time leader in three-pointers made. He has been now for over 3 years. Okay, he ranks 13th all-time in three-point percentage while taking, of course, exponentially more attempts per game than everybody ahead of him. He's led the league in three-pointers made 8 times. He's responsible for 26 of the NBA's 104 games with at least 10 three-pointers, as well as 5 of the league's 7 seasons with 300 three-pointers. In short, Steph Curry is that guy from downtown.
Just not the greatest shooter of all time, and that's where we're going to put this. Because I'm still going to say I would take a lot of other players before I would take Steph Curry in a big moment. And this is what I'm saying, Kelvin, it's real simple. And we can open this up sooner than later because I really want to hear from people and for them to understand what I'm saying. I get you can make all the threes in the world. But when you call somebody the greatest shooter, it means under any circumstance, you would want him to have the ball when you need a basket. Do you agree with that or not?
Yes.
I don't care. That's what they all say is, well, one-on-one or he can't get open or, what. No, he's had 14 looks.
Yeah, I mean,
He's had 14 looks with a chance to tie or win the game in the postseason, and he hasn't made one of them. No one's saying he's got to be 11 for 14 or some outrageous for you. Tell me this. If he had all the threes and he was 7 for 14 or whatever, then you could look at it and go, man, you remember those big shots he made when the game was on the line? And then if you want to bring up, and the biggest threes he made came in the Olympics and they don't even count in the NBA. And only one of those shots was considered a clutch shot.
All right. So that's the question, people. And I think it is a very good question to talk about. Can you be the greatest shooter of all time if you are not clutch? And you heard Rob Parker with Steph Curry's clutch stats. 0 for 14. And, I didn't realize that it was that bad, but I did know that Steph Curry in the clutch is not the person who I would want taking the last shot. Especially when you're talking about in the history of the game, there's been so many great shooters to me that I definitely can't label Steph Curry the greatest shooter of all time. I mean, just thinking back, when you got your Reggie Millers, you got your Ray Allens, you got your Glenn Rice, your Dale Ellis, your Dale Curry, your Larry Bird, and so many great shooters that me personally, who were just as great as shooters of Steph, and even more importantly, better in the clutch than Steph Curry. And so this is why I think Steph Curry shouldn't be labeled the greatest shooter of all time. Now, so let's look at Steph Curry's shooting percentages. And we're just going to look at his field goal percentage and his three-point percentage. Now, career, he's a 47% field goal percentage, and he's 42.4% from the three-point, which is fantastic. But now let's look at some of these other players, like Glenn Rice, for example. Glenn Rice, I feel like, is somebody that doesn't get brought up a lot when we're talking about great shooters. But Glenn Rice field goal percentage for career, 45.6% from the field goal, and he was a 40% three-point shooter. Let's see who else. Ray Allen. Ray Allen was a 45% from the field goal, 40% three-point shooter. Larry Bird, 49.6% from the field goal, and he was a 38% three-point shooter. And so, like I'm saying, it's like all of these players have a very similar shooting percentage, not only from the field goal, but from the three-point as well. Now, Steph Curry has a couple of percentage points better than everybody I listed here. However, a couple of things. Steph Curry is in an era where they're shooting more threes than ever. And, you know, you get better and better the more you shoot something. So that is the question. Does Steph Curry, because he has a slightly higher three-point percentage, does that make him a better shooter when he can't deliver in the clutch? Does Steph Curry having 2% better in the three-point make him an overall better shooter when he can't deliver in the clutch? Because here's something I think is going to surprise some people. Let's go to Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr is a 48% from the field goal percentage, and Steve Kerr is a 45% three-point shooter. Does that make Steve Kerr a better shooter than Steph Curry? Because he's 3 percentage points better than Steph Curry at the three-pointer. And Steph Curry is only a couple of percentage pointers better than your Glenn Rices and your Reggie Millers and your Ray Allens. So does that make Steve Kerr a better shooter? Well, I think people would argue, of course not. Well, because Steve Kerr wouldn't be able to create his own shots in the same way that Steph Curry can. You know, not that Steve Kerr can't create his own shots at all, but definitely nowhere near to the degree that Steph Curry could create his own shots. But as far as his in-game percentage, when he shoots, he's a better three-point shooter than Steph Curry. And I'm pretty sure he has a better field goal percentage. Let me check this one more time. So Steve Kerr is 48% field goal, and Steph Curry is 47%. So they're close, except Steve Kerr is a better three-point shooter. So I think I agree with Rob Parker on this. You know, I believe that you cannot be called the greatest shooter if you can't be counted on in any situation. Because this will be the same reason why people will say Steve Kerr is not as great a shooter as Steph Curry. They say Because here's the other thing. Steve Kerr wasn't taking nearly as many threes, and he has a field goal percentage that good. Can you imagine Steve Kerr in today's league where he has a green light to fire up as many three-pointers as possible? It's a good chance his field goal percentage would be even better than that. So for the same reason that you would not call Steve Kerr a better shooter than Steph Curry, because Steve Kerr is limited, right? He's limited to getting a lot of open looks, the occasional 1 or 2 dribble pull up he may take, but he's limited. So you would say, well, Steph Curry, like he can get his shots off in a lot more variety of ways. Well, for that same reason, the fact that Steph Curry, you can't count on him in the clutch, that's a strike. When you're comparing him to Ray Allen and Larry Bird and Glenn Rice and all these other players, that's a strike. So to me, there's no way you can call Steph Curry the greatest shooter especially when number one, Steph Curry is a superstar in the league. So you're comparing him to the other superstars in the league. And that's a big strike against you. And so when it comes to taking the last second shot, I want somebody who, number one, they pretty much shoot the same percentage as Steph Curry anyway, except when it's clutch time, you would much rather the ball be in the hands of a Larry Bird. When it's clutch time, you would much rather the ball be in the hands of a Ray Allen. At least that's my opinion. But we gonna hold up here, people. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. What do you think about what Rob Parker had to say about that? Hey, Steph Curry cannot be the greatest shooter when you can't count on him in the clutch. And like I said, to me, you have to pick your poison. If you want to call Steph Curry the greatest shooter because of his percentages, well, like I said, Steve Kerr is a better shooter. But by the same logic that you would call Steph Curry a better shooter than Steve Kerr is the same logic you have to make to say that, well, you have to call these other players better than Steph Curry, who not only shoot a similar percentage, but you can count on them in the clutch much more so than you can Steph Curry. So let's, I hate to say it but that's another strike against one of the modern superstars, in the terms of promoting this whole, it's more skilled, it's more this, it's more that. Like I said, I read the percentages for all these players. These are players from previous eras, And like I said, they shoot a very similar percentage to Steph Curry, with the exception of Steph Curry having 2 percentage points. And, Steph Curry is arguably the greatest shooter of his era. But yeah, anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. You all have a truly fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. All right.